Hello everyone and welcome to another baking live stream. I'm Ann Olson. It's my pleasure to be here, and before I get going on today's recipe, if you joined me a couple of weeks ago, we were having internet issues, and so I'm so glad we were able to reschedule so I could make chocolate mousse for you today. And I have not made chocolate mousse live, so this is very, very exciting. I'm so glad you're here to join me. I'd like to say hello to my regulars. Cherry, I see you out there. Bonnie, I know you're watching. Kathy, happy birthday to Craig. I know you've got some spectacular chocolate. Oh, if Craig's watching, I hope I haven't spoiled the surprise. Chocolate desserts in store. Mom, if you're watching, hello, hello, hello. I know you will be eventually. And probably, let's see, who else is popping up here? Well, Maria, thank you for joining, like Cherry from the Philippines. Let's get into making a classic chocolate mousse. So this is just textbook. This is one of the basic things you learn when you go to pastry school in your first semester. You need to understand the textures and the techniques behind making a chocolate mousse. And it is not terribly complicated, but it's all about how you treat the ingredients, because what you want is a dessert that's rich, but it shouldn't be heavy or cloying. So when you eat a well-made chocolate mousse, it should be there, but then poof, disappear and make you want to take another bite. So let's start. Hello to everyone who is just joining in now. And yes, Cherry, Rob is moderating the channel, keeping an eye on things. Of course, my sweetie Michael's behind the cameras. Let's start with the chocolate. We've got 7 ounces, so just over 200 grams of bittersweet chocolate. So you want a chocolate that's got a high cocoa mass content. So you're looking at minimum 65%. Up to 70. Any higher than say 72, you're going to find that the bitterness overwhelms the mousse, because I don't add a lot of extra sugar to this. So we're really relying on the natural sweetness of the whipped cream we're adding and the intensity of the chocolate that balance each other out. So there's not a lot of extra added sugar. Oh, and thank you for those joining from London, from England, and I'm not sure if PSR Pippi is joining from London, England, or London, Ontario, but you can let me know. In addition to this chocolate, I am adding just 2 tablespoons, so 30 grams of unsalted butter. And that's just to help with the nice smooth texture of the mousse. And so today, happily, Michael set up chocolate cam. I know, Cherry, you've seen that before. And now we're melting our chocolate, and if you'll notice, I've got lots of steam coming up from the water. I've got a bit of bubble action, but not a full boil. I'm not tempering chocolate to make bonbons or confections, so the chocolate is less sensitive. I don't need to do anything other than cool it down and then work the cream in after it cools. If I were making chocolate to make candy, then I would definitely want to make sure that no steam is visible rising above the bowl, because then it could condense and drop into the bowl. So I'm just going to let the heat of the steam just take care of things. And I know you know I usually use glass bowls, and in fact I have one here to cool the chocolate when I'm baking, and it's just for the cameras so you can see everything. And of course, they're very nice to work with. But the honest truth is, when I'm melting chocolate on the stove, I like to use a metal bowl, because it conducts the heat really quickly, melts it. But more importantly, when I need to take it off the heat and cool it down, that's when metal really does so much better than glass, because glass holds the heat. And so that chocolate, especially if you're tempering, will keep getting hotter and hotter and hotter. So a metal bowl is always easiest. If you have a microwave handy, you can melt your chocolate in the microwave with the butter. Just, you have to stop that microwave every couple of seconds. Give the chocolate a stir even when you don't see it melting, and make sure you are melting over medium heat, not high heat. I'm just gonna grab a sip of water, and so is Michael. Look at that. Oh, and hello, watching from Thunder Bay and Calgary and Cherry Compound Chocolate. You know what? It's fair enough. Chocolate is very expensive these days. Compound chocolate, you can work with it, but I'll walk you through the method will be a little bit different because I add my whipped cream to the melted chocolate first, then the egg whites. Because your compound chocolate will set up faster, you want to fold in your egg whites first, then your whipped cream, I think, because the cold cream might set up your chocolate too quickly, but you should be able to work with it just fine. If you have a little cocoa powder, maybe add a tablespoon or two of pure cocoa powder to your recipe just to amp up that chocolate intensity a little bit. So I hope that answers your question. Now, I don't know if you can see here on Chocolate Cam that the chocolate is mostly melted, but there's just a little bit of butter left. That's because chocolate melts at a lower temperature than butter. So you will see that happen, that your chocolate melts first and then your butter. I'm just using the residual heat. I don't know if that's blurry because I've got the bowl so high up. No, it's looking good. Good. There we go. Just letting that residual heat finish melting the butter. And now, because I want to cool down the chocolate, I'm transferring it to my glass bowl that is nice and cool, because here in Southern Ontario, it is a very chilly day and a very rainy day. So it's a good day for chocolate mousse. If you're watching live, well, you are now, but this, of course, this video will live on the YouTube channel for a while. It's the day before Halloween, so it's appropriate that we're making a chocolate dessert. So I'm just going to spread this out to let it cool for a little bit while I get my other components ready. The first thing I'm going to do is, I already have my cream whipped, and that's one thing you can do ahead of time. You can whip your cream ahead of time, pop it in the fridge until it's time to use it. But what I will do is whip my egg whites. And there are a lot of chocolate mousse recipes that are simply the melted chocolate and whipped cream added to it. And to me, that just doesn't give you that true mousse texture, that ethereal, lighter than light consistency. And adding whipped egg whites really does the trick. So I've got 3 large egg whites and they're at room temperature. I'll add just a pinch of salt. And I've only got 3 tablespoons of sugar. That's all this recipe needs to make 6 to 8 portions of chocolate mousse. Really, we're relying on that dairy sweetness that you get in whipping cream. Oh, that's excellent. Lisa's going to be making that chocolate blackout cake that I posted on Instagram. And I'm so glad you like baking wisdom. I'm going to be here live making holiday recipes from it and my previous cookbooks, so there'll be more live streams coming your way. Hello, Kelby from Missouri. And now I'm just going start on low speed to sort of start stretching those proteins and the flour, building some volume. And then once I see it starts turning a little frothy, I turn up the speed. Oh, Maria, I did see your note about can you replace the all butter in a cake recipe with half butter and half oil. It's always worth a try. You can in many cases. Typically, vegetable cakes and rich chocolate cakes will have oil, so consider you may need to pare back on your eggs. Maybe pull out 1 egg yolk in the recipe in order to make it not so heavy and so rich. Now that my egg whites are frothy, I can pour in my 3 tablespoons of sugar. And you don't want to whip your whites to a stiff peak. A medium peak is absolutely fine. It's factored into a chocolate mousse recipe that your egg whites are going to collapse a little bit as you fold them in. Thank you for the kind words, Gabrielle. I appreciate that. Oh, and thank you, Diana, for joining us from Montreal. And I'm just checking I've got my soft peak there. It's just a little soft. So I'm gonna whip this just a touch more. You'll find when you are whipping egg whites with a lower volume of sugar. This is a low amount of sugar. When you think of a French meringue would have 150 grams for these 3 egg whites, and it would be thick and glossy. It would take a long time to whip, and it would in fact be hard to over whip, where when you don't add sugar to your egg whites, or you're adding very little, you really have to keep an eye on them because they'll whip up faster and it's easier to over whip them. And so I'd say that's a soft peak, wouldn't you? The way that I'm pulling it, the egg whites are pulling off the mixer, and yeah, we've got a little ways to go. But a little ways with that little amount of sugar is probably about 10 seconds. Nadim, can you double this recipe and do it in a big bowl? Yes, you can. This is one of those staple recipes that when I was working in a restaurant kitchen, if I had to do chocolate mousse for 150, this recipe batches up very well. Of course, when you're batching up, batch up by weight, please, as opposed to volume for more precision and consistency. All right, there I've got that body worked into the meringue. I'm gonna hang on to this mixer, or the whip attachment, but get rid of this. So now I can bring my chocolate back into the scene. And I've got my 1 cup, 250 ml of whipping cream. So this is 35%. Anything 30% and higher, you're good. And now I'm going to add my flavoring. If I were to add any flavoring to the chocolate directly, it would seize the chocolate. So we're gonna work it into the cream and then introduce the cream to the chocolate gradually. So I've got a combination of a 1/4 cup of cooled espresso coffee. And again, that's to bolster the chocolate flavor so that it tastes intense, surprisingly intense, even though the texture of the mousse is going to be so airy and light. If you're not a big fan of coffee, you can leave it out. You could use a brewed tea. An Earl Grey tea would be delicious. A black tea would be delicious. Something like a green tea or matcha in a dark chocolate would be wasted. But you don't have to use it. You can also just leave it out altogether. You don't need a liquid replacement. This mousse will still work without this 1/4 cup of liquid in there. So in goes the coffee, and then I leave it, again, totally up to you. You can add, the recipe calls for brandy. It's in that French tradition of a rich chocolate mousse to add just a little bit of brandy, cognac, Armagnac. I have a little bit of Grand Marnier. You can, again, leave it completely out. Or if you want to add orange flavor without adding spirits, I recommend just a little bit of grated orange zest would be wonderful in here. And don't be afraid when you see the cream totally liquefied. Well, I just added almost 1/2 cup of liquid to the cream. So even though it was fully whipped, it will liquefy on you. And that's actually going to make it easier to fold it into the chocolate. I'm just checking that the chocolate has cooled enough. It can be a little bit warm, certainly not warmer than warmer than body temperature. But you don't want it too cold, because if you're introducing cold cream to chocolate that has cooled too far, you might get those little granular bits of chocolate in there. So what we're going to do is I'm going to add this in a couple of additions, and this is where you want to work quickly. Even though we're folding, and I can feel the chocolate thickening a little bit, but because I'm working quickly, it's staying nice and smooth. And so Wesley is asking what temperature. Let's see. So body temperature is 37.5, is that it? Around there, under 38. So definitely not below that. So I would say about 42 to 45 would be ideal to add your cream. I hope that gives you enough. You've got a little bit of wiggle room there. That's a very good question. And Allison is asking, what is the weight of my eggs? Each egg white would be, oh, now this is where the egg white would be, no, the whole egg is 60 grams, but the egg white would be 30 grams. So that's 30, 60, 90 grams of egg whites for this recipe. And make sure I'm pulling from the bottom of the bowl. So I've got it fully mixed. Have you got a really nice chocolate shot there, Michael? And now it's time to add the egg whites. And now that I've lightened the base by adding the cream, so the cream can take a little more folding action because it's getting folded twice. First, I incorporated the cream itself, and now I'm going to add the egg whites. The egg whites are more fragile, and that's why they get added at the very end. But now that I've lightened the base, I don't need to add the egg whites in multiple additions. They can go in all at once. But I'm going to use my whip attachment, or you can use your whisk. And this helps you fold in the whites without tearing them down, breaking them down too much. And as soon as you've got it about 80% folded in, switch back to your spatula. That way you can pull from the bottom and make sure you've got a nice, oh, look at that texture. I love it. Beautiful, and I'm gonna stop folding now. It can almost be hypnotizing and then you accidentally overfold. So we've got good volume, and depending on that temperature of your chocolate, it's got a little movement to it, but you can tell it's aerated. You can hear it in its fluffiness. Oh, Chris, you've been watching since the sugar days. I don't want to date myself, but that was on quite some time ago. So thank you for watching all these years. How's everyone doing? I see some nice notes coming in. Yes, the using the whisk is really a handy trick. And so now it's up to you. You can pour your mousse. It depends on the vessel that you're using to put the mousse into. You could put it in a big bowl and just chill it like that, and then spoon the mousse out into serving dishes, especially if you're going to serve it with, say, some orange segments or some fresh berries. You can, if you're putting it into sort of stemmed or footed glasses, a piping bag might work better. Just be very quick and very fragile. Don't squeeze the bag because this isn't frosting, it's mousse, and you don't want to crush it and deflate it. I'm going to just use 2 spoons and get this into my serving dishes. I think my cream was very cold. This mousse is setting up very quickly. This is one of those few tasks I can't read the comments while I'm spooning this, or the chocolate mousse will end up everywhere. So just give me a moment here. We've got a question about caster sugar. Concerned it's not fine enough. Can you use powdered sugar? What you can do, powdered sugar usually has a small percent of cornstarch, as you mentioned in it. So what you can do, if you've got a little mini chopper or a food processor, you can actually measure out your sugar and grind it a little finer. And I like, when I'm making a meringue, like a French meringue that has a large quantity of sugar, the reason you want to use a super fine or a caster sugar is because it will dissolve faster in the egg whites. And you need that, otherwise you just won't get the volume and the structure in your meringue. So I have done that. If I don't have super fine sugar, I put it in the food processor and grind it to make it fine. So I hope that answers your question. Oh, and hello, Anne from Australia. What time is it there? Goodness. All right, so these are very large mousses because I could only find 5 of these glasses instead of the requisite 6. So I'm just going to, Michael, you're just going to have to eat a very large chocolate mousse. Let me just smooth the top. It's elegant to do the individual desserts, but quite frankly, a chocolate mousse is one of those desserts you can whip up so quickly that I like putting it in a large bowl and just spooning it. That way you can decide if you want a little or a lot. And then for a little finishing touch, just tidy up my work area here. A little grated chocolate. So taking a piece of solid chocolate and a vegetable peeler. White chocolate does the best because it's softer because of its cocoa butter, and it does the curls very nicely. So you don't have to go out and spend money on those curls. A good piece of chocolate. Take that leftover Halloween candy. And there we go. If you have little crunchy caramel bits, those on top can be lovely. And there it is. The ingredients are simple. It's all in the technique and knowing your timing. You can make a chocolate mousse. And just a little note, if you're thinking, well, can I interchange milk chocolate and white chocolate? The proportions do change because the set is very different. Dark chocolate sets up more firmly. Milk chocolate and white chocolate set up softer. So especially if you're going to have them side by side, it is a slightly different formula. I have so many chocolate mousse recipes on the channel here. I know you're gonna find that chocolate mousse that suits you, but if you want that quick, I'm craving something decadent and I want it to be chocolate, this is the chocolate mousse recipe for you. Let me grab a spoon. I haven't even had dinner yet, but you know, tomorrow's Halloween, so to have chocolate now, and look at it, it is cool in here, I have to say. The weather changed so quickly. Oh, thank you for watching from South Africa. Allison, you're asking a very good question. I haven't tried this particular recipe with aquafaba, the whipped chickpea water that you get from a tin of chickpeas. I have had so much great success working with aquafaba that I would say, yes, this should work just fine. So if you are adapting this to a vegan diet, you can buy such good quality vegan chocolate now. It is delectable. I have worked with dairy-free whipping cream products, or you could use coconut cream as an option there. And then the aquafaba, so you can easily make, I think, a delectable vegan chocolate mousse using those substitutions. There's so much more. Cherry wants to see some chocolate decor. All right, I'll have to work that in. But something to keep in mind before I can consider chocolate decor, that might be something good for around Valentine's Day. Everyone, you have to join me for a new live stream series. I'm going to get into some holiday baking. The very first holiday baking live stream will be Tuesday, November 14th, 6 p.m. right here. And I'm not just doing all sweet baking. There are a few savory recipes that I'll be making. So please, you have to come back. Tuesdays, starting November 14th, I'll be right here on my Oh Yum channel doing more live streams with there are some elaborate recipes too. I've got the easy treats, the things for the holiday tin, the brunch item, fancy desserts, and then a savory appetizer too. And that's all you're gonna get. You have to wait and come join me in a few weeks. I can't believe it's going to be middle of November. Is that 2 weeks? 3 weeks? 2 weeks? Oh my gosh, 2 weeks from now. That's crazy. Let's get in the holiday spirit. In the meantime, make this chocolate mousse. Give it a try. I thank you everyone for joining me. It's wonderful to be back at home, back in my studio kitchen, and I'll see you in a couple weeks. Happy birthday, Craig. Oh, that's a good mousse. Thanks for all the kind words.